Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
Yeah, hello everybody. A rare morning record for us here. We're usually nighttime people, but we've slotted in between the World Open, the World Grand Prix. Plenty to talk about as always.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the world's greatest morning person, has to be said, but pleasure to be here, of course. And Phil, from the top, let's say, congratulations to John Higgins. He has won his 32nd ranking event title and his first ranking tournament for 4 years. Crazy weight, really, with victory at the World Open in Yushan. We've been saying what here for some time, haven't we? Um, we think he'll do it, but with all those things, when it drags and drags, you never quite know. Great scenes, funny scenes with that trophy. My God, I know you want an early word probably about that trophy. He beat Joe O'Connor at 10-6. We don't have favourites. We're not allowed them, but I'm delighted for Higgins. Aren't we all in the snooker world?
Well, I couldn't speak for everybody, but yeah, no, I am. We've seen him have so many heartbreaking defeats over the last few years that it's almost become a cliche, isn't it? Him losing horrible, horrible matches. And he doesn't hide how hurt he is in those post-match interviews usually. Um, so yeah, tough to watch at times they were really. But so you gotta feel good for him to get over the line. Did it really well. And some tense moments in there we'll get to on the way to the final for sure. But a good winner in the final, win it with a century. That's lovely stuff. And yeah, 32 ranking events. Yeah, we know that these guys are in that sort of those doing those sort of numbers, but when you hear them, it still sort of blows your mind a bit. It's a huge amount. So yeah, congratulations. And it's a big one as well. Big tournament, 175 grand, way back up the rankings, just before his 50th birthday. Superb stuff.
Yeah, but a bit confusing though when you said about I couldn't speak for the whole snooker world. I thought you did speak every week on here, pretty much for the whole snooker world. Yes, I mean he took control of that final. I really thought it was an either or. Joe O'Connor was just about playing the better snooker actually, and he went into it with that. Higgins went in with that vast, vast experience. And it did feel different when Higgins went ahead in this one because he wasn't playing one of those stellar. But that's the thing. When he lost those really big finals, he was playing amazing sort of players every time. Neil was a couple, wasn't he? That famous tour championship he lost to Robertson from 9-4. This is the same situation, 9-4. Well, it was 6-2 after the first session. It actually was 6-1. O'Connor got the last of the first session. 6 centuries from Higgins. Not spectacular scoring, but consistent, good. Then it was 7-2 with a 68. O'Connor then did hit back, breaks of 71 and 70 for 7-4. Next frame was massive, obviously. If you got the 7-5, you just never know then going to an interval. Higgins got it for 8-4. Then he made another good break, 94 to go 9-4 ahead. Then funny things started happening, Phil. Not absolutely lows and lows, but a few. John played a couple of funny shots. Remember one screwing off the yellow and going at the red, white going in the middle. We were texting a bit,
Yeah.
weren't we? We were both saying, I think you used the phrase, it would have been stunning this time. And I think we did honestly did say, even when he was getting those couple back, O'Connor, John will get this one. However, it must have been horrible for him. I noticed he left the arena pretty much after every frame at one stage towards the end because it was really getting nervous for him. O'Connor sort of started playing better. But I think part of it was that very human thing. Even Higgins, with vast experience, he was just desperate to get that chance, wasn't he? Maybe searching that little bit too hard, eh?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, definitely the nerves kicked in. There's no doubt. Because you say O'Connor did start playing better. I think he would have been really disappointed with the first session because I think he was definitely the player of the week. So going into that final, he was definitely the form player of the two. And he really underperformed, but he was getting stronger. He won't go away. He's got great determination and stickability. So yeah, definitely the nerves would have been jangling for Higgins, but. He stood up to them well. There were one or two nervy moments, but it wasn't. I wasn't ever thinking, "Oh God, he's really gone here" or anything like that. But it could have reached that point, but it didn't. And he actually, I guess we'll get to the conditions at some point. He even mentioned that perhaps the generosity of the tables helped him in that circumstance because the nerves aren't jangling so much if you know you can almost miss pot sometimes and they'll go in. So yeah, that might have helped him as he said as much. But not to take anything away from a great performance and a great win. I think just things fell for him. Um, this is this is a good sort of illustration of just turning up for everything. All these through his sort of down times and struggles, he just turned up for everything. I don't think he's ever skipped a tournament that I can remember. You just got to keep plugging away, and eventually you'll get your rewards. And the draw he came through. It's not stellar names. He didn't beat any sort of former world champions or anything like that. Good players, of course. Everyone's a good player, but um, if you just keep going, keep trying, one day it's going to be your week if you're someone like John Higgins, and it was.
Yeah, really good way of summing it up. It's the first time I can think of, certainly in this run of not winning finals, and he hasn't played an absolute heavyweight in the final. I think he's done it every time, really. Was it Selby this season? Those Robertson ones, Allen, a couple of other big ones that I probably slipped my mind, but really, really good players. He never seems to play one of the so-called lesser players, although, as we say about Joe O'Connor, he really is. Well, an up and comer. I think he's 29 now, but he looks the part in every way. And, you just feel he'll get stronger. He lot closer in this ranking final than his last one. So, really good signs for him. But as you say, yeah, John he wasn't feeling it in the sense that you could see, every other shot, but there was a couple head went in the air type thing. There's one positional shot where he wasn't that far from getting over the line. It went slightly wrong, and he was like, oh. Then O'Connor won that frame, and that was the one to go 9-6. But then I think that thing about wanting a chance, this wasn't a decider, but I think he wanted a proper hand on the table where he's at the business end with reds all around and the black in open play, and he sort of got it. O'Connor didn't do very well with an opening red, if memory serves, in that frame, that one that John got to get over the line would have been frame 16. And then Higgins did well, break of 100, very calm, didn't really look like missing despite the circumstances. And yeah, just a brilliant effort, really. And as you say, 32 ranking events, marvellous effort, only a couple of superstars for the ages above him in that list, and been doing it for decades. And as we all say on here, often and all in the snooker world, he's 49. He's only a couple of months away from turning 50 now. They've made that ordinary. Those class of 92 guys have now made that not a line, but it should be a line. It's amazing in the context of snooker history. And also, and a very important thing, they are all separate, must drum them. They couldn't be more separate as characters and as snooker players. But we do have that class of 92 thing. He will have felt, wouldn't he, that the other two are still doing it more than him. Ronnie's having a funny season, we know, for different reasons, and funny time generally. But he's won big. He's winning big. He won 2 Triple Crowns last season. Mark Williams is winning really big. He hasn't. He must have felt that a bit. He's almost hinted towards it a few times. So this is brilliant that he's. I think I've read them all in the world's top 8 now. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ludicrous. They're
Yeah.
just incredible stars. Never mind the history. Even now, Ronnie's in a funny place at the moment, and what have you, in terms of not playing a lot of events, but they're just absolutely incredible characters. We say to make the most of them, but Higgins has sort of talked, hasn't he? He talked to us, that great appearance in 2023. Talked to others too about when he might stop. I mean, this will be telling him it won't be soon, won't it? I mean, he's going to be a big star well into his 50s, really. It could be quite a while till that top 16 place goes. It could be quite a few seasons. And, he's picking up good prize money. So I think that retirement date, Phil Hay, can be pushed, what do you reckon, slightly further into the future, eh?
Yeah, well, I think they all, well, I say they all, John and Mark definitely had this sort of, I want to be in the top 16 when they're 50 aim. And then they're going to do that, obviously, very, very comfortably. And I asked John, I think that was in the previous tournament, I know it was in Wales, if he'd sort of rejigged his aim now that that's in the bag, and it's even more in the bag now, he's won this, obviously. And he just said, as long as he's competitive, as long as he turns up and has a genuine chance of winning, um, and also he doesn't want to go to qualify. So he's going to have to stay in the top 16 and he thinks he can win events. Then he'll just keep going. And he's going to be in the top 16 for a long while now. This prize money will sort that out for some time. And clearly he's competitive because he just won the title. So yeah, I don't think he's going away anytime soon, which is great. Um, yeah, they're just phenomenons, aren't they? And it's sort of easy to forget individually how phenomenal they are because the three of them are just lumped together so much. But yeah, it's absurd, really. Top eight of the world, three of them. I mean, Mark and John are very nearly 50. Ronnie's in December, but yeah, it's wild stuff. And we talk about them a lot, of course we do, but it's almost not enough because it's so mad what they do. But yeah, incredible.
It is a very impressive phenomenon from you there, because that's a word I've always struggled with any time of the day. So that was good. Last 16, Phil, let's go back, shall we? Wind the clock back. We were on edge before that, of course. So we timed it quite nicely on this occasion, actually. And, well, there were some interesting results there for sure. Zach Cherty, who, of course, we will talk about, I'm sure, a fair bit because he had a terrific week for him. When he got himself into his first quarter final, he went further than that still. He beat Lu Hongyu 5-2, breaks of 97, 126, 86, and 65 from him. Barry Hawkins beat Ryan Day 5-3. It was Pan Jung Soo 5, Zusa 2. John Higgins, Zhao Yulong. Now, we say this, don't we, about tournament winners, that they have those moments. He had a couple. 4-2 down, made breaks of 60, 74, and 72 to win it. And probably the most emotion from him since that famous reaction against Mark Allen at the Crucible, eh? Proper fist pumping, which he kind of explained a bit later by saying how unwell he was. Pretty sure it was that match, wasn't he? Just didn't feel well at all. So even more impressive. And yeah, another later recovery as well we'll come to. But that was, a classic tournament winners moment. Now you look back on it. Ali Carter beat David Lilly 5-1. Battle of two wonderful players, the match of the round, really. Sean Murphy, Ding Junhui. That was 5-2 for Masters winner Murphy. Tom Ford 5, Jimmy Robertson 3, and Joe O'Connor 5, Michael Holt 3. Funny game, that one. I looked at the scoring. Michael with the two highest breaks, actually, including a 1-2-4. But O'Connor got the job done with breaks of 63, 72, 63, 68, and 74. It's a very consistent scoring from him in that match. But yeah, word for Zach Cherty. I know we'll be talking more about him, and also, yeah, Higgins. I mean, that was the archetypal description of digging deep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was definitely unwell. He was nipping out between frames. I think he'd had one, two hot pots too many, he said. But yeah, great win because Joe was playing really well. He beat Kyron in the round before and looked good there. So to come through that was a great effort. And yeah, Jack Stewart, I mean, out of nowhere, really. He'd never been to a quarter final before. And he's and he's made light work of that. We'll come to that, but he had no form to speak of really coming into this. So yeah, sensational stuff. It was a string of good wins for him. Yeah, that Murphy Ding game was a bit weird. That looked like the obvious tie of the round, and Sean was playing so well coming into that, and Ding looked quite good, but Ding just didn't really turn up. It was a bit of an odd one. Murphy sort of cantered to victory there. Yeah, and then we were left with an interesting looking quarter final lineup. O'Connor Murphy was sort of well, I guess it was the standout tie there because Murphy was still the man of the tournament at that point. He'd had his 147 earlier on. Um, so that was O'Connor, but that was, I mean, then that turned around. O'Connor took that mantle from him, didn't he, with that performance? 5-1. Murphy said it was as good a performance as he's ever seen played anywhere. Breaks of 135, 100, 66, 132, and 68. Murphy's one frame he won was a 128. It was absurdly good from Joe O'Connor. And then elsewhere, Ali Carter 5, Barry Hawkins 4, Surety 5, Tom Ford 3, and John Higgins romped past Pang Junzhu 5-0. I watched that and Pang was really poor, but then I think Higgins said in his interview afterwards that he was noticeably quite ill himself. So fair enough. That explained his underperformance there. But yeah, a canter for Higgins in that one. But yeah, some security there was an eye-catching result because Ford would have been favourite there. Again, great building from Zach. 133, 103, 88, 73, and 70. Superb. I don't know if maybe we'll talk about conditions now because that match has reminded me of that because the match ball red that you put down the cushion just would have not got anywhere near to going in other tournaments, but it went in there. And Tom's face was, as you could imagine, Tom Ford's face when that happened. Um, yeah, I thought there were a number of examples of that. And it did seem actually. I think last time we spoke, I said it might have been about the same as other Chinese tournaments, which generally are playing quite generous, but this may have seemed even more generous than normal over in China. Um, and yeah, of course, it's the same for both players, but it was noticeably a different game in terms of players playing for different shots that they would never normally play, and it was very different to watch. Um, so yeah, they thought they were too big, as most people would probably say. I think.
I think so. I mean, I'm definitely willing to listen to people. Many of them, you know, terrific voices. And if they would say that that is a good thing for the game, I'll happily listen to them. But it has to be a good argument because I think that's not good. Having said that, I'm just trying to find these Neil Robertson quotes from last season. Actually, I think they are relevant. I have just found a couple of them now. I think I did have a couple of people say, "Oh, well, I like seeing the big breaks," and that's a
Mm.
factor. That is a factor. You know, people do like seeing big breaks. Actually, and I know that as I use that line again in the recent column I wrote on Mark Selby, Rory McLeod said it's called snooker, not potting, and it is. It's all sorts of things. But people do like seeing the breaks, and that's got to be kept in mind. But I mean, I would say it doesn't spoil it, and I'll still tune in. But there were a couple of times when I thought, and even preparing for this a bit and looking at some of the scores, I thought, oh, come on. I mean, this is a bit much, really. I even thought one of those very early shots I wasn't going to say it, but now you reminded me in clinching Higgins break. I thought one of those reds should have missed. Really, I think it was a red and on the cushion. I thought that's hit the cushion miles before. And it might go into the pool table, but not a big snooker tournament. I didn't think. Robertson said last season, it's been a massive leveler in the sport. You're watching people play all the wrong shots, and they're knocking in balls down the rails. Players are missing balls under pressure, but they're going in. That's the bottom line. That's the end. That's almost the end of it for me. If shots that should miss go in, then it's just. I don't know if it's going to work now, but it's like if you transplant that into another sport, it would be crazy. Like a tennis player put a ball wide, but it sort of curves in by some
Mm.
ridiculous thing. It's
It's just
not.
like making the goals bigger in football, isn't it?
Yeah,
And you
it's
might
not.
get a load of games where it finishes 10-7 and everyone's like, oh, that was crazy. Look at all the goals. But you just made it easier. So it's
Yeah.
silly.
And there are loads of variances, and I get that. And sometimes there are almost a perfect table, but slight funny conditions, weather conditions can change things. I get all that. But when they're so obvious from the start of the tournament to the end, I think that I'm a bit wary of that, really. And I know, listen, some really good pundits will say, you're focusing a bit on the Chinese events. Well, that's just the evidence in front of us. And I accept, by the way, that the UK tournaments had loads of funny events with pockets going back, but not so the last sort of couple of seasons, I'd say. Since we went back to China full time, if you like, after the pandemic, I think it's been noticeable at nearly all of them, really. The players know it, really. And it's I would say it's not a proper test. That's silly. They still have to play very, very well. And we had a great winner, for example. We tend to have great winners of most of the events out there. But, Robertson went as far as saying that some of the records shouldn't count, a couple of them last season. I don't know what he'd say now. But, it's it is an issue, really. And yeah, maybe sometimes it's the other way. I love the Masters pockets last season. They would be perfect for me. Where we saw two maximums, by the way, in that
Mm.
tournament. Two out of what 6 or 7 in the history of the Masters. So not everyone found them difficult, but yeah. Listen, I was at quite a bit of that Masters live, and I was like, well, that looks like it's going in. Wow, I just thought it was better for it. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, there we go. I didn't hear that Higgins line you said about how it made him relax a bit more. That was interesting. I'm really interested.
I've got the quote here actually because
Yeah.
it was in his World Snooker interview, but it was just in the video. They didn't put it on the site, the actual typing up of it. He said the conditions maybe helped this week. When you're feeling a touch nervous out there, they maybe did help me. But listen, you've still got to pop the balls, which of course is true. But yeah, it was interesting that he said that. I spoke to him after his semi-final, I think it was, and he'd mentioned the conditions. I got another line here from him, because then I did ask what it's like playing with them. He said it's difficult. They are playing bigger. I think maybe the two players who get to the final this week are the two who've blocked it out during the week. There's been a lot of chatter, obviously, but you've just got to play the game. They are bigger pockets, but they're the same size for both players. So you've just got to get on with it and do the best you can. Because then I said, when he said there's been a lot of chatter and saying about players blocked it out, I asked him if it can sort of get in players' heads. And he said, of course, it's going to mess with your head. But I think all the players here this week have realised that they are big, so you just get on with it. So yeah, I think some players. I remember watching Selby's first round match, and he lost quite handily. Um, and he just looked quite annoyed. And I think that was I thought then he's just watching someone potting balls that they wouldn't normally pot, and it could frustrate players. So I think that is a thing. And I think that's what John's saying there. You've just got to ignore it as much as you can, and use it to your advantage as well. But yeah, it's interesting because you would think easier tables, that would also help good players, the best players. But it can wind people up, and it's more of a mental challenge than anything, I suppose.
No, I think you're right, and I think some of those. I get why we all tend to use that same for both players, seeing as we do in a lot of sports where things aren't always perfect conditions wise. But the thing is, it's like Robertson hints at in the interview he did with me. Like you mentioned, Selby there, the player least expected to win matches can often find it's just a pure leveler because they're not as good, and yet if they're getting that break would normally end. Let's have for example, Robertson and Selby come back to the table like it's gone in. I'm still at the table. I don't know. It's just it is naturally would be seen as a leveler. I would say. I know there were variances there, but yeah, no, interesting. And thanks for those Higgins quotes. I didn't see those. Really interesting. Yeah, good quarter-final sort of roundup from you. Not much to add there. Apart from I saw the end of the card to Hawkins. I think you mentioned that was in terms of the end of it very odd. I mean, Hawkins very unlike him. I liked your comment about the Hawks sort of gliding through unnoticed. Typical. And I thought, he's going to glide through this match unnoticed. 4-3 up, tuned in. He just kept missing. Very weird ending. But Ali Carter took advantage. And then, well, the semi-finals. I mean, Ali Carter didn't go any further. Because he lost to Joe O'Connor. Not spectacular scoring from O'Connor in a 6-3 win, as he showed earlier. Yeah, he was marvellous against Murphy, my goodness. No wonder Sean just applauded and said well done to him and couldn't do much. But yeah, that was less spectacular, but still, plenty good enough to win 6-3. But before that, what a match. John Higgins, Zach Shirty. I mean, pure tension. It was classic snooker tension, actually. Talk about digging deep again from Higgins. He was 3-1 down, back to 3-3. He was 5-3 down. And I watched the end of that, and my God, I mean, it was just like pint of blood for nearly every shot. I mean, it was just Higgins from behind in the decider. You actually made a break of 72 in frame 9 to get back to 5-4, made it 5-5, and then another 72 to win it. What you say time and time again, Phil, Zach Shirty had the best week of his career, but he's a broken man. It's classic. It's classic of this sport. And I say it's a bit like racing. You do far, far more losing than winning, no matter who you are. Even if you're Ronnie, John Higgins, and Mark Williams, you do far more losing than you do winning, and it can leave you broken. And that's why the mentality of these guys stuns me and impresses me time and time again. I mean, he couldn't. I mean, how can he hide your emotions there when you're 5-3 up in a semi like that and don't win it? But I did feel sorry for him, I have to say. It was a brutal one, wasn't it? I mean, that's all you can say. A brutal one.
Yeah, especially because he had the chance, and John was really struggling there. I mean, Zach missed to give John a pretty good chance in that last frame, and then John immediately missed. And then I think Zach missed again. I think it was three misses on the spin of that you'd expect all three to go in. So yeah, I mean, hopefully he'll already be looking at the great memories of the best week of his career. But I'd be surprised if he's not thinking about those misses in the last frame of that semi-final still, and may well for some time. Because yeah, he got himself in such a good position, 5-3 up. and John wasn't playing badly. He made a couple of big breaks there. And yeah, it'll be tough for Zach. He looked pretty devastated even while John was still sort of making that break at the end before he got over the line. I think Zach knew it was over. Um, so yeah, hopefully, as I say, hopefully he'll be looking at the positives already. And if it's not already, then it will be soon because it was a superb week. Out of nowhere. His first quarter final, and then his first semi final, which he nearly won. Biggest payday of his career, I assume. I didn't check that, but it must be. So yeah, a brilliant string of results, but a horrible end for it, as so often is the case.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I couldn't. I know you've done a couple of really good interviews with you in the past, talking about some of the issues he's had and sort of difficulties in the game and sort of wider in life. And he was saying at one time, I couldn't wait to sort of get home as well. As much as you enjoy it, couldn't wait to see his mum and all those sort of things. And being away was probably not the easiest for him. So it was just brilliant to see. I know I do that line about not having favourites. You can't have them, and so pleased for John to win it and win the tournament. But it was painful because it would have been amazing for him to get to the final, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, what a week. And it's what Stuart Bingham said to me a long time ago. I know they're from the same parish and they practice together, but Stuart wouldn't be saying he was a good player to me or any other journalist if he wasn't, because that would not show Stuart in a good light. Stuart's always sort of said he hasn't really ever shown what he can do. We're seeing that now. We're seeing that come to fruition a lot more, and that's brilliant. And of course, he'll go up the rankings. And well, we were left with that final field. John Higgins 10, Joe O'Connor 6. So congratulations to John once again. I mean, it looked like a well-staged tournament. I didn't notice two or three of the sort of regular attenders had gone there. It's rare for snooker fans to go to China, but two or three do. So, if you were there or any of the events in China, do let us know. You can be our eyes and ears. We don't tend to be at the host. So, it looked, smashing venue. Not always busy on the crowd front, it's fair to say. Pockets, yeah, not great, but listen, it gave us some really, really good viewing, no doubt about that. I noticed you saying to me again, you saw absolutely loads. It can fit in with our schedule so well here. It gives us the nights off, doesn't it? We love nightly snooker, of course we do. That's magic for us. We're very lucky to have so many tournaments here. But morning, afternoon play, lunchtime play, it's good stuff, isn't it? And yeah, some of the scoring was down to the pockets, but we also saw some spectacular scoring. Good stories most days, weren't they? Good drama. And, another good tournament. And the great thing is we're coming to Hong Kong now, and that's where we'll be going next when after we give a podcast name check, but maybe a final word from you. I think a decent tournament, brilliant winner. Pockets weren't ideal, but yeah, we couldn't argue with some of those stories. And yeah, snooker over breakfast, snooker over lunch for us, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It works. That suits me down to the ground. That. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was. Every day was a great story. There were so many shocks early on, but as so often is the case, you think, oh, we're nailed on for an out of nowhere winner, and then it's John Higgins, who I suppose in recent history is a bit out of nowhere, but not really, is it? But no, great. And I suppose we've got to talk about that trophy.
Oh God,
It's just so different from the previous one that we saw Judd lift last year and previously. A complete change to this sort of multicolored vase, which didn't even really look like a trophy, I suppose. If you saw it on someone's mantelpiece, you wouldn't necessarily straight away go, "Oh, what tournament did you win?" You would just think you've got some lovely flowers to go in there. But I like the different ones in China. I love how colourful they are. I like their uniqueness. It's not just no one's just gone to the local trophy shop and bought one that's like the Tony Mio one. It's just a snooker player there. Someone's come up with a good idea. But yeah, then the little cuddly toy on the top of it made it look even madder. But it was an interesting scene, covered in flowers as well. John with his new vase and his cuddly toy. It was quite mental, but I enjoyed it.
oh, it was brilliant. I was trying to think. I said I think he could have been the perfect player for that. There may have been two or three other better ones, but I think something at his age, just the person he is, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I found it so funny when I saw it. Yeah, I must admit, I put a video up, and well, I'm not saying it's popular film, but it's getting more views than most of the movies on Film 4 And I'll crack that tire gag quite a lot of times now. But yeah, pictures from TNT Sport, it should be said. But yeah, very funny, and that was brilliant. And yeah, I mean, it's a slightly farcical trophy, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a big trophy person, but that I don't mind left field, but if it doesn't really look like a trophy, then that's an issue, isn't it? I don't know. You're the
He
trophy man.
said it. I think he said in his interview afterwards, he called it gorgeous. It's a gorgeous trophy. So John was happy with it. That's the main
Oh,
thing.
perfect way to end. And let's say you are listening here to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Phil, it's congratulations to John Higgins then for winning the World Open. The story moves on. The World Grand Prix. We were expecting Ronnie O'Sullivan. We're not going to get Ronnie O'Sullivan, and he's out on medical grounds. So the next time we'll see him, if we do, will be in Sheffield for the World Championship. And just before we came on air, thankfully, you spotted that Stephen Maguire's also pulled out. So a bit all change. Despite one or two whispers of, what's the difference between other tournaments, this was more of a surprise. I think that's fair to say because Ronnie suggested he would play. It's in Hong Kong, and yeah, those other ones are maybe more predictable. But it's a shame. Obviously, we'd like to have seen him, but as ever, I know we're saying the same sort of thing over and over again, but quite rightly, the message is we wish Ronnie well. We hope to see him in Sheffield. It'd be a big loss if we don't, won't it? We'll miss him very much. But that has to be a bit up in the air, eh?
Yeah. Of course, he's got to look after himself, put himself first, and that's quite right. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stop making any sort of predictions because I've been dead wrong on this. I remember after he spoke at the Masters, and I thought he sounded like he was going to play again quite soon. I think I even said on here he might play in some events that you wouldn't even expect him to. And that was entirely wrong. Then I really did expect him to play in Hong Kong. And to be fair, he did say he was going to play in Hong Kong. So it wasn't a wild prediction from me. But that was wrong as well. So I'm not going to make any sort of prediction about whether he plays in Sheffield or not. We don't know. I don't know if he knows, but we'll see. But yeah, of course, it would be a big loss to the tournament. And it would be really sad if he feels like he can't play the World Championship because I would not like to guess what sort of mental state he's in if that's the case. So yeah, just wish him well. Hope he's getting himself better and getting ready to hopefully play again. But if he doesn't want to play again, that's also up to him. So we'll see. But yeah, me making predictions on when he's going to play again is going to stop. But yeah, Hossein Fai gets his place in the draw playing Si Jiahui. And Ben Williston gets Stephen Maguire's place to play Sean Murphy. So great. I mean, great opportunity for them. I actually just saw because I tweeted that Maguire news, and Mark Allen replied to it saying he doesn't think they should get replacements into tournaments like this because players who've already qualified through the ranking list and earned their in grand or whatever it is first round prize money. They should get that whether they're withdrawn or not, and their opponent should get by to the next round. So that's an interesting take from Mark Allen, but I'm sure Hussein Fai and Ben Williston do not agree with him.
I'm sure they don't. And I'm sure the broadcasters don't agree with him and the people putting the tournament on, which might be the important thing there. But yeah, no, interesting to see Mark. He doesn't normally have strong things to say about the game, does he, Mark? It's a rare foray into the sort of arena of opinions there from him. Tomorrow, Tuesday matches then. And there's some great ones. Jack Lazowski, Zhang Anda. Lazowski has had some decent runs actually. And we talk about him endlessly, but reached the quarterfinals at the Wuhan Open, UK Championship, and Welsh Open. Zhang has not had the season like he had last season, but he still reached two quarterfinals, and he's obviously evidently made this event. Art Williams has got Stuart Bingham. I don't really remember that much about their recent UK meeting, funny enough. I must have not seen too much of it. Bingham won 6-5. Chris Wakely and Dave Gilbert played at the Crucible 4 years ago. I remember us talking about it on here. Now, when I look back, Gilbert winning 10-4 in that one. Yeah, that'd be an interesting match for sure. And then Murphy Wollaston now. Yeah, so looking at the head-to-heads, very much in Sean's favour. Wollaston did beat Murphy at the German Masters nearly a decade ago, and the Pro Series event that they put on quite last minute in 2021 for pandemic reasons. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's 7 wins to 2 for Murphy in the head-to-heads. maybe I'll go to you for a word on those four before maybe going to the next four I've got on here, which features Judd Trump and John Higgins, and lots of good matches to come. But yeah, well, I mean, Williams and Bingham was absolute standout match there. Wouldn't be at all surprised if it goes as close as the one at the UK.
Yeah, I was there actually. I was when I was up in York for that one, and that was Williams was far ahead, and then it was a long way back for Bingham, and it finished quite late. That's when people were really complaining about the conditions there. I can't even remember what the details were, but Williams was not impressed with the tables. A lot of people weren't then.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, Bingham's an interesting one because um, obviously this is top 32, so he must have had like a decent season to get here. And I just can't remember him like doing anything really. And it shows he just timed it well because that was the last 16 at the UK, and he made the last 16 in Saudi. And the money of those two compared to the other tournaments are so big. I think it was 30 grand for the last 16 in Saudi. So I don't know if he's even got further than that in a tournament, but he just timed his decent runs well to be in the biggest earners because yeah, I mean, as I say, top 32 on the 1 year list at this stage is a decent season. But if you'd asked me, has Stuart Bingham had a decent season? I would have said no, not really. But he's got here, so that's the main thing. And yeah, of course, that's a great first rounder. Even if Stuart's not in the best form, that's lovely stuff. And yeah, I remember that Wakeling Gilbert Crucible game when Gilbert was in sort of something like his pomp, and Wakeling was sort of unlikely qualifier, and Gilbert sort of beat him quite handily. But things have changed a lot since then. Dave's had an up and down season, brilliant start. Not seen much of him since. Wakeling's just a whole different force in the game now, isn't he? So I'm not seeing the odds for that, but I wouldn't be that surprised if Wakeling went in favourite, which is very different from that Crucible game we're talking about. Yeah, and then obviously it's a shame we don't get Maguire versus Murphy because I know that's sort of tired old story to an extent, but we all love it. The old rivalry. Um, I don't think Ben Wollaston and Sean Murphy's got any sort of rivalry there, unless I've missed it. Ben doesn't seem like the kind of guy who'd fall out with people generally. But we'll see. But yeah, no, shame for that one. And shame for Stevens as well, because obviously he had that great run in Wales. I don't know. We literally just saw that news just before we started recording, so I don't know anything about why he's not there. But real shame for him that he can't capitalise on the upturn in form because he was great in Wales, wasn't he? And we were looking forward to seeing more of him. But maybe, well, almost certainly won't be until Sheffield now.
yeah, no, well summed up. I can't imagine Ben Wallace having many rivals in life. Full stop. Really, he's a nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a not very very pleasant chap, and well, he's got a big test though against Sean Murphy, who's of course having just a brilliant time of it so far this year. Well, Judd Trump, Gary Wilson. Now talking about Crucible, that was a semi-final, wasn't it? I think we were both there for that, wasn't that? When that sort of ludicrous chalk conversation was that when you were trying to sell it to the editor? All sorts of. I think Michael McMullen may have been grilling him about the chalk at one time, if memory serves. That was.
Yeah, it was definitely when Town was coming in, but it wasn't quite as taken up by everyone. And Wilson was very annoyed that I think Trump was still on the old chalk then. Yeah, 2019 final, yeah. A lot of chalk chat.
And he was very down. That was the. I mean, listen, you should be down when you lose a world semi, but he was really, really sort of half broken. Wilson, always remember that quite well. Obviously, a good run for him, but didn't play that well in that semi. And yeah, he had various complaints afterwards. Well, John Higgins, Ali Carter. Higgins was still on top of the world, of course, having just won in Yushan. Carter had a fine tournament there too. First match in 1999, Phil. That's going back a fair while. I wonder who's going to party like it's 1999 this time. Well, Higgins has the advantage in the head. I had that written down. Sort of a bit of a naff. I see you laughing though. Very easily pleased. Higgins has the advantage in the head-to-head record, but hasn't beaten Carter outside the Championship League since 2018. Actually, so that's an interesting one. I haven't played that much actually, but yeah, obviously, will be a test for Higgins certainly against Carter. I wouldn't be surprised if Ali turns him over. John will have to be, on it straight away again, and he might have been doing a bit of celebrating. So we'll see. Wu Yuz has got Pang Jung Soo. Wu's twice a finalist this season at Home Nations events, whereas Pang was a semi-finalist at the Northern Ireland Open, so that's certainly be worth watching, as they all will. And then Kyron Wilson, Matt Selt. Kyron, the world champion, and having a brilliant season, whereas Selt has been, well, I suppose making headlines for mostly the wrong reasons, but obviously a fine player. And yeah, lots of good ones there. I mean, John Higgins, Ali Carter. There's some miles on the clock there, isn't there, Phil? Lots of miles.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was interesting. John was straight away because people were asking him, "Oh, you're going to Hong Kong? You must be feeling great." It shows sort of the scars that built up. He was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling like I'll have more confidence, but I remember, I don't know what it's going to be like. I haven't won for so long. I'm going to go. I could just fall apart." It's just like what a weird way of looking at it. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be feeling good, and it'll feel like not a free hit because these guys are so competitive that he won't feel like that. But yeah, he should go there and play a bit more freely with a bit less pressure on him, I'd say. But yeah, what a great first round of that is because Carter's coming back into form. He had a great start, didn't he, the Championship League, and he went away a bit. But Wales and Yushan look good again. Yeah, Wu and Pang's interesting. Very different players, two young Chinese talents, but very different styles. Wu's been funny because he was building up so nicely. Those two finals, um, and then I think he got to the quarter in Germany. But the last two tournaments, he's had two really unexpected defeats early on. He lost to Sanderson Lamb in Wales, and then to David Lilley in the World Open. Who he would have been heavy favourite of both of them. So not sure what's going on at the minute for Wu, but always worth watching. Great to watch. Yeah. Um, yeah, and Cell, yeah, and again, Cell is another one where you would think if I were just if before this draw, if I hadn't seen the draw and I was trying to name who was on the top 32 on the 1 year ranking list, wouldn't necessarily have got Matt Selt in there. I don't remember him doing too much. But again, he did qualify for the UK. If once you get to those stages, that's a game changer. So yeah, it must be in a decent season for him. But Kyron will be favourite as he is against most people.
He certainly is, yeah. Well, there's all the Tuesday matches. On to the Wednesday matches then. Well, Mark Selby, Jackson Page is another one that we'll enjoy watching. That's a Welsh Open winner Selby against Page, having the best season of his career. He's been in the final and two quarterfinals. Xiao Guodong has Jack Jones. Well, the head-to-heads is very much in the favour of Xiao there. 6-0. They also have one draw and 2-2 in the Championship League, but that doesn't tend to be counted in most of the official stats anyway. Leipay fans got Elliot Slesser. Lay, the shock winner of the Scottish Open, of course. Slesser had a couple of very good runs, actually quarter-finalists at the British Open, semi-finalists at the Northern Ireland Open. And Neil Robertson won Sijun. Well, I remember that. I was at the Temperdrome for that funny match, actually. One was sort of in charge of it most of the time. Ended up going all the way, though. Won it in the decider and got very nervy towards the end, but a fine win. So he's got that recent memory under his belt. So yeah, maybe back to you for those four then. I think Jackson Page is an interesting guy to watch generally, isn't he? Really having a really strong season. You get the feeling, he's maybe even better things to come from him in the game. And big test against Selby, of course, as it is any time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the best season of his career. He's progressing, still only 23. It was a good quarter final, wasn't it, in Wales? He only narrowly lost to Wu at the World Open. So yeah, progressing nicely. He was interesting he was on the World Snooker Tour, Snooker Club podcast with Stephen Hendry and Mark Watson, and he's still just sort of openly admitting he's still learning when to turn down shots. Yeah, he's super attacking. Um, I think he even said like he was lining up a shot and he knew he was saying to himself, "Why are you going for this? Why are you going for it?" Went for it anyway. So it's just the classic young players learning. But he's having, as I said, best season of his career, so he's going in the right direction. Yeah, Slesher's had a great season. Lepe fans been funny since he obviously that was out of nowhere, the Scottish, and I don't think anyone thought he would suddenly become a top player, but. His matches since then, he lost a German Masters qualifier to Alan Taylor. Then he narrowly beat Anthony Hamilton in the World Open qualifiers 5-4. I think he was miles behind in that, actually. I think he might have been 4-0 down. Then he lost Welsh Open qualifier to amateur Dylan Emery. And then he got handily beaten by Kyron in the World Open. So not been great since that big win in Scotland. Um, and yeah, I mean, he'll be the underdog there, I guess, against Slesser. I would certainly have Slesser favourite. Um, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I guess it must have been it was so out of the blue for everyone, just as much for him as anyone else. So it must be hard to follow up on. And so has been proved by his results since.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, it's just, I guess that's what they mean about strength in depth that someone like that can win a tournament, and then sort of just generally then continue to not win many matches afterwards. So that was a huge high for him. Of course, we'll see how he gets on in this tournament. Hossein Vafai then has got Cedar Ihi, not O'Sullivan Cedar Ihi as we were expecting. Well, they actually played the Championship League a few weeks back, but this Hossein winning that 3-0. This is obviously a miles more significant affair. Barry Hawkins has got Tom Ford, first match 2001, that's going back. Ford a 4-1 winner when they last met at the Welsh Open last year. Ding Junhui Zhu, sir. I mean, that's an absolute cracker. Let's hope Ding, you mentioned, didn't play very well in the match we just seen him at. Well, let's hope he turns up and plays better in this one. There was an international championship match between the pair early this season, which Ding won 9-6. And Mark Allen, Jimmy Robertson. Allen's not won a ranking event this season, which is kind of funny for him. Certainly this modern guise of being one of the game's greatest winners, frankly. Robertson reached a quarter-final in Saudi Arabia, and as you mentioned, that certainly does no harm at all when it comes to sort of putting prize money and ranking points alongside your name. So that completes the lineup then, and well, yeah, some interesting one there. I mean, probably the one that catches the eye there is Ding Junhui against Zhu Sur. They both play at their best. That could be an absolute smashing one to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's a few really good ones. I mean, C against Vafai is lovely, even as a replacement. I was watching Vafai in the Championship League, and he was struggling with either his neck or his shoulder. So hopefully he's all right with that. I mean, I'd really felt bad for him in Germany because he was really on the cusp for this, and then missed out with the visa problems. He has loads of visa problems. It's such a nightmare. It's such an unfair thing that he can miss tournaments and miss out on ranking points because I think he was one position outside of getting into this. And I think he was due to play someone who was just inside and to withdraw because it's out of his hands, really. So I'm glad for him to get in there. Obviously, it's not how you'd want to. Yeah, that seemed very unfortunate and unfair that you could miss out on potential ranking points for such a irritating reason.
Yeah, exactly. So let's hope for all the best there for him, and let's hope generally for the best for the tournament in Hong Kong, of course. So I'm already enjoying seeing, I'm sure you are, some of the pictures from there, some of the videos from there. Some of our colleagues from the media are there, and the players seem to be enjoying it. I mean, I was there myself 7, 8 years ago on a holiday. It's a thrilling place, actually. I'll go as far as that. It's absolutely captivating. A lot changed since then, actually, in political terms, but interesting place, obviously. We look forward to it. It's on TNT Sports and Discovery. And I thought I'd make a note, actually, that obviously there's a lot of talk about television at the moment for obvious reasons. After this week, all the big snooker left this season in the UK is on free-to-air television. We've got the Players' Championship on ITV, the Tour Championship on ITV, and then the World Championship on the BBC. So a lot of the very, very biggest events still has that big free-to-air television element. So, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be great viewing. We know this series is, Phil. It's just the top players, the best players this season. As you say, one or two surprises, which you don't get in the 16, but this one you think, how they found it. But as I've also heard you say, nearly every player on tour legitimately will think this is a target for them. So to get in it's a big deal. With the other two to come, it's just sort of sumptuous. Not ideal, really, that one's straight onto the other, is it? It might have been better with the first one being a little bit back time wise as it used to be. But listen, we'll love watching it, won't we? It's a special venue. There's big old crowds there. And yeah, we're just looking forward to the action now. As lots of the top stars roll up. Another big week for the game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it looks great for the guys who've been out in Yushan and then just stayed over there to go straight to Hong Kong. And yeah, like you said, a lot of the pictures and videos. Neil Robertson posted some amazing pictures. I don't know if he'd taken them himself, but it was fine work from him with his camera if he did. Yeah, it looks great. I know when it moved out there, I mean, as you'll find with anything on social media, there were some sort of rumblings, negativity from some people that I read. Just can't get my head around it, really. It's amazing. This brand new venue of up to 5,000 people in a city, in a place like that. Nothing against the Mattioli Arena in Leicester where it was last year, but it's a big step up. And looks uh, looks superb. So yeah, looking forward to see how the tickets have gone. I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll be full up later on. We'll see how busy it is going to be in the early stages, because I suppose that is an issue when you've got a massive place like that. Even when it's got a decent crowd in, it can look a bit empty. So we'll see. But it's exciting. And I'm sure that, yeah, everyone out there will be having a lovely old time. Very jealous.
Absolutely. And now you talk about the arena, reminding me that Taylor Wilson, friend of the podcast, put some nice pictures up of the arena. Looks absolutely smashing. And so we look forward to the tournament. Best of luck to everyone involved, all the organisers, and we'll no doubt have some great stories to report on. And we'll, of course, review the tournament when we're next on air. Phil, let's also tee up the WPBSA Q Tour Global Playoffs, shall we? They're next week in Antalya in Turkey. I know you've rightly been, you know, very much flagging this on social media. 3 2-year tour cards are up for grabs. I was having a look at some of the matches, and I mean, there's some top talent. If you look at the three different playoffs, I mean, the first set of quarterfinals, Dylan Emery against Ali Garazoglu. Conor Benzie's got Mark Joyce. Friend of the podcast, Stephen Hallworth, playing Lu Hong Hao, and Kuldesh Yahal against Ryan Davis. The second set of quarters in playoff 2, Liam Highfield's got Habib Hamoud. It's Demonis Moraes against Harvey Chandler. Julian Boyko's got Alex Clenshaw, and Billy Calabresi's playing Craig Steadman. And then the third set of quarterfinals, playoff 3, Ryan Thomason against Asan Hadari Nazard. It's Josh Tamond against Florian Nuzler. Sean O'Sullivan has got Oliver Sykes, and Vito Peropolo has got Andres Petrov. Just brilliant players. I mean, I started looking at a few of the highlights. I'm going to put them all down. I mean, it's just going to be, you've earned it. If you get through these different playoff systems to get yourself a tour card, it's going to be worth it. I know we can watch the action. It's certainly on YouTube, isn't it? So it's a week off the main tour action. So certainly not any time off watching snooker. Plenty of fans will be loving to watch that, eh?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting. I think it was last season. Did it come in last season, this new global playoff? And it was a great addition. I really like it. It's hard to know what to expect, because there's some really recognizable names. But I know last year the guys from the Middle East were really strong players, and got through. I mean, I can't tend to know what to expect from a couple of those guys from Iran, but I would expect them to be very good players. Certainly don't just assume because you recognise some other names that they'll get through. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these names you see in these kind of situations so much. Florian Nuzler from Austria. He feels like every possible route onto tour, he's always there or thereabouts at the end. He's not quite managed it yet, so he'd be a very popular winner if he came through. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch, and looking forward to it. It'll be edgy. It'll be very edgy, which we don't mind.
Absolutely. And that event then will take place, just to mark your cards, next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So March 11th, 12th, and 13th. Those playoffs taking place alongside the EBSA European Championships. I say you will be able to watch that action coming up in Turkey. And on then to the first ever World Disability World Championship in Thailand. Well, the event's been held a big success, and I think quite rightly, because I've had a look at plenty of the photographs, videos myself. It really did look the part. That venue was terrific by all accounts, and plenty of good snooker people. Some of our friends and colleagues were out there covering the event and watching the event. And congratulations to everyone that took part. Lots of big winners, and it's really good for the sport. And just say, loads of news and results from the event you can find on the World Disability Billiards and Snooker Facebook page. And obviously we know from presenting this, because we're trying to cast our eye across the whole world of snooker. There's so many fabulous things going on, Phil. I mean, we talk about the main tour a lot, of course, but to have a proper bona fide World Disability Championship like that in Thailand, it's just wonderful for the sport. Such good news.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it looks fantastic. The bits I saw from there. You mentioned before it came out, the closing ceremony looked superb. And yeah, and I think it's all part of the plan to try and get back in the Paralympics, as we mentioned before, which is tremendous goal, and hopefully we'll get there. Yeah, all sorts. there's many different groups and categories and stuff. So do go and check it out. Who's come away with the trophies there, because there's all sorts of different ones. But yeah, no, looked a great success, and congratulations to everyone who's put that on for the first time. Bit of history.
Absolutely. Many congratulations to everybody involved with the running of that very successful tournament. And Phil, we're actually on target time wise. You said about an hour. I think we're just coming up to that. Any other business? I think it's time now. And say loads of snooker on Sporting Life. I'd like to talk about that. And that includes my column on Mark Selby. If you haven't seen that, on why he isn't more loved. And Richard Mann, I know we were discussing this before we came on air. I think one of the top voices of snooker, Richard. We've had him on this podcast in the past. He's saying the World Championship should move, but not venues, as a lot of people talk about, but dates. He says earlier in the season, it would, in Richard's mind, mean that less players are completely worn out for the tournament. I don't think we're in agreement. I think we generally don't. We feel like the World Championship being the climax. I think one factor for me would, I know many people have said this, but would be the weather actually, because the World Championship in winter would be brilliant. It would be a wonderful watch. But I do think part of the charm of that championship, which I hope stays in Sheffield, but wherever it is, frankly, presuming it's in the UK or in the Northern Hemisphere, would be that spring setting. That's a part of it, I think, as well. People can have an outdoors element. We get some filthy horrible days in Sheffield, of course, in April and May in this country, but a lot better chance of good weather then, of course, would get in the winter. But yeah, I mean, it's well argued. It's an idea sort of has not been branded too much elsewhere, so we like those. And I mean, it's a wider thing for me. I said it to you just before we came on air. I do sometimes think that the whole stamina thing is a bit too valued at that tournament. And I don't, because it's not always snooker stamina. It seems to be sometimes we're looking for, Mo Farah, and we should have the focus really on the top snooker. But that's more of a wide thing. How much sleep you get. It's it's a beautiful tournament, quite rightly cherished and valued by us all. But I am a little bit, even if it's in my subconscious, wary of that continuing sort of stamina narrative. But in terms of dates, yeah, and I wouldn't really be particularly aligned with any plans to do that. But well argued from Richard, as you can imagine, and it's on Sporting Life now.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. I'd not really thought about it. But yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. I like the whole season climaxing at the biggest event. I think if it moved earlier, I would worry for whatever followed it. Obviously, if that did happen, you'd just get used to it, and you know, your expectations would change. But at the minute, if you put the biggest event by miles in the middle, I think the rest of the season would feel very anticlimactic and tail off quite badly. But yeah, no, I mean, I love the World Championship. We always seem to be talking about how we should change the World Championship. It's the best thing in the sport. I think we should leave it alone as much as possible. There's other bits of the calendar that could be improved much more than the World Championship could be improved. So I'd rather focus on them really. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it as much as ever, and we'll be there soon enough. But yeah, no, it was interesting. It was interesting points. And yeah, there is. I think Higgins was interesting this week. Actually, I asked him, how different does it feel getting to the final of tournaments at 49 years old to when you were, a teenager or all the years in between? Does it feel harder work? And he's sort of the opposite of what you were saying about the stamina there. He's just like hard work playing snooker. There's much more difficult things in life than being a snooker player. And he's it was quite nice, quite refreshing. He loves his job, and he recognises that a lot of other people have it a lot more tougher than turning up with these snooker cue to play a game for a living. So yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, no, I can see Don saying that. Actually, I've pretty much seen him say similar things just personally to me and other times in the past. So yeah, I like that. And also, it's got to be said, you know, uh, Rich is obviously determined, I think we all will be determined to to establish the best player, certainly over the 17 days, but someone that's done well that season or one of the top talents in the game. But they are tournaments, whether it's held in December, January, or where it is now in the spring. Tournaments don't always throw up the best player, if you know what I mean, the quotes unquotes best player. And I was thinking, funny enough, I was going through football World Cups in my head, but then I was going through a lot of them, thinking actually, most of them do throw up quite good winners. But there were some historical ones. It was going back a long time, but I was thinking about World Cup when I was a boy, the '82 one, when there were loads of great teams. Would you say that Italy were the best in that tournament? Maybe not. They might have been third or fourth best. They beat Brazil. Brazil had an amazing team. France had a great team. West Germany had a great team. There are other tournaments that come to mind as well where you sort of think, were the French better in '98 than anyone else? Maybe. But you know what I mean? Tournaments are funny things. It's one-offs. Luca was a brilliant winner, but who could ever? I was there to watch that last session. Who could ever believe that Vonnie wouldn't turn up and win a frame in that last session? Vonnie was a better player better snooker player than Luca Purcell, but on that day Luca was better, and that tournament Luca was better. Unless you do these things by league system, which no one would ever want, I'm sure, and say, well, how many points have you got? How many things? Well, you're the world champion at the end. Unless you do that, tournaments are tournaments, Phil.
Yeah, and I think if you take the history of the sport as a total, the people with the most world championships are the best players ever. I think the argument for who's the best ever is between Hendry and O'Sullivan, isn't it? And they're level at the top on that. So yeah, of course, individual world championships will throw up odd results, but if you take the whole thing as in totality, people's people's top 10 players, and of course it would be ordered because it's on world championship wins, but I think that's how you would expect it to be anyway. In general, we have this conversation about Judd. He should win more. Well, we think he should more by the end of his career. Might be an outlier on that list, but it's not like the world championship just throws up these random results that in its entirety. So yeah, no, that's what I think.
Well, you explained it very well. Feel free to do more plugging. I'm going to mention Radio Snooker with Nick Metcalf, where I have brought listeners commentary on the closing stages of that World Open final, and I'm hoping to catch up maybe with some of your views on there soon. And you can read more about that Radio Snooker via Snooker Chat and snookerpro.de. I was very touched and delighted that both those websites have written up pieces. So if you want to find out more, go there. And back to you. I know we tend to say right at the moment that it's all about on-table action. So you might not know what you're going to write about this week, Phil, but you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's just rolling into the next tournament. So plenty more chatting to people over Zoom from Hong Kong, I imagine. I had I had a piece ready to go this afternoon from Murphy on playing Maguire, but that's gone in the bin. So it was quite interesting for Sean, actually. I mean, he was obviously playing down their rivalry, saying it's all sort of long in the past, but he was saying that Stephen would make a great sort of corner man for someone whenever he decides to stop playing. He said he'd be the ideal bloke to have in your dressing room trying to fire you up. I think his words were something like, imagine have someone in your corner who would literally set the building on fire to have you win. He'd be great. So that was an interesting take from Sean on Stephen. But I'll have to wait till they next play to write that piece or to publish that piece. But yeah, no, there'll be more reporting from Hong Kong. That's my week to come.
I've got visions of you. You're not an angry type, really, but you angrily putting that into the shredder. That's enough. Like Gareth in the office. Can you send me that, please? I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. I promise you I won't use them. I like that. Corner quote. Yeah, nice stuff. Well, what can we say, Phil? Other sport. Liverpool are closing even further on the Premier League title, haven't they, since we were last on air? While in the FA Cup fifth round, Manchester United exited to Fulham on penalty kicks. Well, you had to say Manchester City will be big favourites in that tournament now, going into the sixth round. Very much the biggest team left in that now. Well, England exited the Champions Trophy cricket, didn't they, in pretty miserable fashion too. Josh Butler resigned as their white ball captain. Super League Rugby in Las Vegas, Phil. Never thought I'd see the day. Lots of different rugby league matches there, and Super League having their part of it. Wigan beating Warrington over there in Vegas, and Luke Littler. Well, you can't keep that man down. He's won another big title. He won it easily, actually, in the final. He beat James Wade to win the UK Open. So, yeah, is he still doing that thing where I'm not going to say I'm the best in the world? Wow, he might not, but we can.
Yeah. I mean, it's a toss up between him and Humphries, isn't it? They're battling it out. But yeah, he was the best. Certainly on Sunday. I mean, Humphries had an amazing Saturday where he barely dropped a leg. But then Littler then did the same on Sunday. 10-4, 11-6, 11-2 were his three games to win the thing. Yeah, superb stuff. I've been to Minehead as a fan for the weekend of the UK Open at Butlins Minehead, and it is sensational. I couldn't go this time, and a few of my mates went, and I was very, very jealous. It's just so much fun. If anyone is minded to ever get a ticket to that, I would thoroughly recommend it. But yeah, great winner in Littler, and yeah, it's nice that he's turned 18 now. Then you can say man, because it's quite weird in copy how often you would write the word man, but then when he was before he was 18, you can't really felt weird writing like boy. It just felt very odd. But now you don't have that problem now. But yeah, no, what a player. What an unbelievable player.
He certainly is. Yeah, I went to Minehead donkeys years ago for an early FA Cup tie. Might have even been a qualifying tie. Yeah, right on the beach, isn't it? Nice little place as well. There's some sort of railway. I think it's start of a steam railway or something. But nice town as well, Minehead. Most people would just stay in Butlins. If you go to Minehead as well, nice place, nice part of the world. And well, Cheltenham on the way, of course. That's coming next week. All being well, I may make the pilgrimage myself to Prestbury Park. It's a pilgrimage event, like the Crucible, Phil. You don't just visit Prestbury Park, you go on pilgrimage. And we're going to head off, I think, aren't we? That's about it from us then. Keep your thoughts coming. Tweet us at Talking Snooker or email talkingsnooker@yahoo.com. We've got a landmark episode next time, Phil. This has been episode 199. So we look forward to ticking over one more when we join you next time. And we'll of course review that World Grand Prix in Hong Kong and look ahead to the Players' Championship in Telford. Yeah, very nice of them to organise a calendar for the next wee while for journalists, isn't it? Got proper week on, week off. We got proper reviewing, proper previewing. It's about time they had Talking Snooker in mind when they started sorting out the calendars, eh?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, of course. They probably got those guys in Hong Kong just to move it back a few days for our sakes. But yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, as it always is part of the season. And there's so many good parts of the season, the whole season. But yeah, this build up towards the tour and then the World Championship, superb. So yeah, lots to look forward to.
Well, WST steal all our ideas. I mean, the least they can do is then sort the calendar out in response. All the best, sir. I salute you and say thanks very much for your company. And yeah, see you next time. Enjoy all the snooker. I know you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure as always. And thanks everyone for listening. And we'll speak to you very soon for episode 200. I'll bring my party poppers.
Do that. And thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your company, everybody. Great to have you out there as ever. And from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.